Let's go over all of the best base locations as you make your way through Palworld. We're going to start out with early, and then a middle, and then late game spots. You can only pick 3, so use the ones that are going to be best for you. Note that these have been picked based on utility, so that we have easy access to the majority of the resources that you're going to need to build everything in Palworld, not based on aesthetics. Keep an eye out on the channel if you do want something more aesthetic based. My family are extremely excited about the idea of making themed bases, so we have a couple planned already. The wife wants to do Lon Lon Ranch, which is going to be pretty hilarious. If that's your kind of thing, keep an eye out on the channel. We should have them out over the weekend. Let's start out by going to the map. For your first base, you have 2 options. I would say one is utilitarian and one is a little bit more aesthetic. Both give you good iron. This is probably the nicest looking one. Where the game currently starts you out near the plateau of the beginnings, you'll follow the road out and continue west. You can see we've got the King Packer right here, and there's the small settlement. You'll continue going west, and you have this little bit of a peninsula that comes out of the main craggy continent here. It almost kind of looks like a quarry biome. That's kind of the best way to maybe refer to it. This gives you a really, really good starting point. If you put the PAL box close to the cliff, that gives you a lot of the ore or iron or metal, whatever you want to call it. There are a good 8 or 9 nodes that normally spawn here, and you get enough space. If you look around here, look, the border comes quite far this way, so we actually like this. We're going to turn this into a bar area. This is going to be a nice little cool theme that we end up doing later on. It still has a bit of construction to go. If we come in here, look, we've got some tables and stuff being set up. A very nice starting spot. The only issue for this one is that if you set up like this, it's not going to be the easiest to defend. Often the raids come from that way, which means in terms of like our little bar thing and that kind of stuff, it is kind of at risk, so we will need to make sure we put something in to keep this protected. Next up, we have Fort Palworld. That's the best way to describe this. As you can see, this used to be one of our bases, but we've since moved on because we needed to get hold of other resources. The spot here is very good for iron. It's also very good for defense because mostly the raids either have to try and come across the bridge, but you can kind of put a gate across there and make them fall off down into the ravine, which makes it pretty easy to defend, and they can't actually get up on the other side, so if they end up trying to come this way, they usually just glitch out and leave. This means that you have a decent amount of space to build on. You have areas where you can put facilities that the pals can't actually get to. We liked having things like the statue up on the raised area. You can make like lookout areas and this kind of thing. It's very nice if you want like a hill fort theme, and has all of the prerequisite iron as well. Just so you know, the reason that we're talking about getting the metal, the ingots, is because this is the biggest bottleneck of the game. Everything, and basically even the late game materials, all use this as the base material. So getting this in your first base is extremely important. This, as you can see, is located to the east of the Syndicate Tower. It's very easy to find, which kind of know where it is. The only real difficulty is that you do need to come from the direction of the tower, because as you can see, there's a big massive ravine here. Until you get a flying mount, it's very difficult to climb up here without using something that is going to give you a bit more of a gradient. Moving on to mid-game spots then, and there is one spot that rules them all. Yes, we are talking about this little hill here that you can see on my screen. This is located to the northwest of the Masanda Forest. Let's zoom out a little bit here. It's quite far from the 2 positions that we were talking about before. If you were in the fortress that we were talking about jokingly before, it would be straight north and up on a hill. The reason this one is so good is because in the mid-game, you are going to start wanting coal so that you can start making the refined ingots, and this base has both the ingots and the coal, which means you can still produce ingots at your original base, which are still necessary because you're going to need things like nails, and you're going to be able to produce the refined ingots at this base alone, which is going to allow you to make things like the guns and the armor and everything else that you're going to want. This base, as you can see, also comes with a node of sulfur, which is going to be good for getting your ammunition, therefore meaning your mid-game, especially if you're solo, is going to be completely covered by this one spot. With the early and mid-game materials sorted then, so let's say you take the cliff base like we have here, you then take the really, really good mid-game base, which is probably the most essential out of everything on the list. You now have one more base that you can build. There are 2 materials that we need to care about. That is sulfur, if you want easy access to making ammunition quickly, or quartz, which is going to be good for your base building needs bridges and getting hold of circuits. We're going to give honorable mention to this area right here. We're actually going to make a Mordor themed base on it. I think that's going to be the plan. Hopefully, if you guys want to see something like that, it'll be out over the course of the weekend, like I said earlier on. And as you can see, this has a good amount of both metal ore and the sulfur on there, which is kind of useful. That could mean that if you wanted to, you could lose the early game base and bring that up here. We're just talking about options right now so that you can have good ammunition production capacity. That brings us on to quartz then. And the best place for quartz is this hill right here. It's very similar to the ore and coal hill with no real way for raids to get up here and attack it. And it even actually has one node of the metal ore on there along with all of the quartz, which, you know, is just a good way to make sure that you are covering all of the bases. To reach this spot, you'll need to make your way to the Unthawable Lake, or a little bit easier is the Icy Weasel Hill. Fly on over the big ledge or ridgeline that is kind of separating the snow from the more temperate peninsula, and make your way a little bit to the west, and you will easily find your way to the Quartz Hill. The last spot that I want to show you then is where our third base is currently going to be located, as this may not be the most optimal area, but it is going to be better in terms of building an aesthetic looking base, as we do have all of the quartz down on the lower area, and we get enough space to be able to put buildings on the ledges that are on some of the raised areas, which is going to allow us to put some like little tiny buildings up here and just in general make this area look really, really cool. So I wanted to show this one because I think this is actually a nicer base, even if it doesn't have the metal directly in it, and probably has like one or two less actual quartz nodes. So that, and this one is located pretty much on the very western area of the map. The tree is out this way. We can't actually get there yet. I'm looking forward to see when this gets added to the game. I feel like that's going to be an expansion. So also future proofing, because there's going to be more content out this way. But as you can see from where the previous hill was, you basically head in a directly northwest direction and you will come across this location. That is all of my picks for the best positions of the bases. The optimal loadout is probably to take the sulfur base in the volcano. Either of the two ice bases, this one is probably better because it's more isolated and includes a little bit of metal as well. And then the undisputable best coal position is this one right here. The best thing about spreading your bases in such a way is that the ambient temperature of those areas will affect the egg hatching rate in your incubators. Meaning if you're not going to cheat and turn all of your eggs to instant hatch, which you can do on the settings, by the way, you will be able to shorten your egg timers down by hatching them in the correct biome. I hope that helps you to select the best places for your Palworld bases, and I will catch you all in the next video.